Hi there, today we're unboxing quite an exciting product here. It's a Wi-Fi light switch. So let's have a quick look around the packaging. So this is actually by a company called Knaclean. I don't know what this is, I guess it just came like that. It just looks like tape marks, but not part of the actual packaging. So 2-switch option I've gone for. 2-switch meaning 2 light switches. It's not 2-way, it's just a 1-way switch. So nothing amazing, just plain packaging here really. So let's, bit of foam just protecting it. That's the actual switch itself. It's that. See what else we have. 2 screws for fixing, and we have a user guide. Let's quickly open that up and have a look. And this is the interesting part of this. It's the wiring diagram. So I'm based in the UK, and in the UK generally we don't have a neutral cable at a light switch. So that should be an interesting one to try and wire in. So just to show, instructions are all in English. Looks pretty straightforward. I guess it's just wiring this thing in, and that's blank. Let's look at the actual light switch. So nice sort of a glass finish on there. Size wise, this area here comes in just under 1 centimeter in thickness, and this is about 2.5 centimeters. So in total you've got 3.5 centimeters here. So you may need to maybe change the back box just to give you some room for the existing cables just to go at the back or get pushed in. Now looking at this, just a few details on there at the back. So obviously live, neutral there, and the actual switching here, you know, for each of the light switches. I guess it could probably go like that, or you could turn it, I guess, depending on space. Not sure yet how I'm going to have it. Looking at the actual holes, I guess more than likely it will be like that for me. So this is going to be put in a kitchen area, so under cupboard lights and ceiling light. That might work quite well for me. So let me have a look at the wiring diagram and see how I can wire this in. So another thing to note, there is a clip here, and that holds the actual fitting in place. I guess that just needs to be pushed in, and it just sort of unclips, but I'll do that later. I think I'll need a screwdriver just to be able to pull that off, and I can show that. So there you go. That's the light switch, and let's have a go at fitting it.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show was the actual lighting circuit. So this is the existing lighting circuit I had. So as you can see the main feed here from the consumer unit moving on to the next light. So here you've got the switch and the actual junction box connecting all the wires together, and again the other switch, and here it is connecting all those wires together. So now both these switches were actually together. So obviously a switch with 2 buttons on there. Now I had a long think about this, just to think of the optimum way of doing this without causing too much upheaval. Obviously I didn't want to dig in too much of the wall to replace the cable, so I wanted to make the most of what I had and obviously label it so clearly so there's no confusion. So here's the solution I came up with. So we've got the 2 cables here that are going in there. They were the existing cables. So what I did, I thought I'd use one of the cables, which is here, and ensure that's permanently connected to neutral and then live, as we can see here. And if we look at the other end, you can see that's where I connected it to neutral, and that's where I connected to live. So it's a permanent live and neutral feed. Now the other cable, obviously twin in earth, blue and brown in there. So I had to decide which one I was going to use for which switch. So I made the decision where L1 was going to be the brown going to the top kitchen lights, and L3 was going to go to the undercovered lights. So it just provides the extra switching, just to enable it to switch on. So that was one part. The other thing is the earth. So obviously there's no earthing connection on this Wi-Fi light switch. So on the back box that I installed, I just connected the actual earthing from both those wires onto the back box. So this was sufficient. So the advantage I had, obviously I was quite lucky with this, obviously with 2 cables going in, I didn't have to put an additional cable in. So it worked out quite well. So I've labeled it at both ends, like I've said, and it has worked. So all good. So I hope this has given anyone thinking of undertaking this sort of work sort of an idea what's involved, and hopefully the circuit diagram should be able to assist in this piece of work.
Okay, so here's a location where the switch is going to go. I've wired it in, and what I've done, I've replaced my existing one, which is here. So this is the kitchen light switch, so top lights and bottom lights. So there's had to be a few wiring changes for this, but just to show, live there, just there, you can see L and then neutral there, and then the 2 switch connectors there. So luckily, I've reused the cables I've had coming down and just labeled them up and done the same upstairs where the labels are connected to the junction boxes. So in a way, I've been saved doing this, not pulling any wires out or anything. Just got to be careful, just make sure it's clearly labeled, And like I said, I'll show the circuit diagram later. So now it's in. Obviously I have tested. So if I just show in that direction, and click, top lights turn on, and nicely the button's just below, so that's perfect, and then you see the bottom light turn on. If I turn that off and turn that off, right, so next thing we want to do is configure the app to allow it to be controlled remotely via Wi-Fi. Okay, to set up the Wi-Fi light switch onto an app, the app they recommend using for this is Smart Life. So I've already got that installed because of my existing devices. You can see it there. Let's click plus and select wall switch. Now we've got to confirm if there's a light blinking on there, and you can see it just there. If it doesn't blink, you just hold on to it. Hold on to it for about, I think 20-30 seconds, and then it begins to blink. So I'm going to click that, but the next dialog will show my Wi-Fi password. So let me just do that off camera. I've confirmed my Wi-Fi password, and now it's trying to connect. So if we just see the switch in the background just there, it stopped blinking, as you can see, and at a certain point it normally speeds up. Oh, there you go. So it's connected and configured. So if I click done, and there you go, there's the 2 switches which represent obviously these, top light, lower light. I did install this switcher a moment ago, hence why the names are like this at the moment. See, if I click, let me turn slightly. Bottom light. There you go. Very simple, very simple. I guess the only slight thing with it is the actual neutral cable that goes in there and the wiring. You just got to be careful and make sure you do it correctly. Ensure you've isolated the power and ensure you're correctly connecting this up. If you're not sure, it's better just to get an electrician in, not to risk it. Now, the next challenge with this is the back box. So the back box here is 2.5 centimeters. We've got 2.5 centimeters on that, but it's still very tight. Rather than mess around with it, I thought best thing is just to dig it out and just put in another back box, just to give a bit more space, just to be able to maneuver and push this back in again. So I'll show how to get that done. But what I'm going to do before, I'm just going to disconnect this, put a junction box onto it and I put it aside so we don't end up accidentally damaging it or anything. So let me get that prepped up. But again, let me show the switch. Okay, so you've seen it working via the Smart Life app. It also works via Google Home. So let's try that next. So if I say, okay Google, turn on top light.
There you go, turning the top light on.
Okay Google, turn off top light.
There you go, turning off the top light.
Okay Google, turn on top light.
Okay, turning the top light on.
Okay Google, turn off top light.
Okay, turning off the top light.
Okay Google, turn on lower light.
Sure, turning on the lower light.
Okay Google, turn off lower light.
Okay, turning off the lower light.
There you go, works pretty well with Google Home. So the next thing is, let's make a start on digging this out and get the bigger back box in there. Okay, so we've isolated the wires, the power's off, taken the switch off, and I've just put some connector blocks on there just to get it out of the way. So now we're going to try and be as careful as we can with this. We're just going to try and slowly cut this out. So I'm going to get a sharp knife and just slowly work into it. So we're going to have to go a little bit more than the edge. So what I'll do, I'll scrape around there and I'll go in a few mil extra. What's good to do is maybe use a flat edge with something, hold it against it and just keep going in. So let me work on that at the moment and I'll show you how it looks when it's been scraped out. Okay, so we've got the large bulk of the area removed, as you can see. And then we'll just start trying to loosen it because it's stuck against the wall. I'll just shake it like this. Should bring it away. Oh, there you go, it's popped. Not too bad, not a large amount of mess. So next thing, we're going to get a drill. We're going to start drilling into that. So let me start preparing that and we'll start drilling. Okay, so we've taken off the back box here and we're going to replace it. So the existing one was 25 mil and we're going to replace it with a 47 mil. So quite deep when it goes in. It's just trying to work out a good way of doing this. So we're going to take a little bit more off the edges here and then we're going to drill in. So we need to take a drill bit and obviously get our box and we'll just put a bit of tape just there to indicate how deep to go. So let me do that in the background. So just to show, just there and there, and I'll just start drilling into that. Okay, so we've dug out quite a bit now. So I used a Scotch chisel and a hammer to go in even further. So after I've drilled the holes, just at an angle, go in at the Scotch chisel like that and just clean it out and just kept hoovering it just to see it clearly. So let me just check it's the right depth and then we'll work on fitting it back in. Okay, so we've sort of completed digging into the wall. It's about 47 millimeters. So the depth of the actual box. I didn't have a grommet to sort of protect the end, and I couldn't be bothered to go out and get one, so I've just put some tape, some electrical tape, so that should keep it safe from damaging the actual cable here. So let me just feed this in through just to show, and it just easily just slots into place. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take this out, we're going to get some bonding plaster, which I've already mixed, which is just here, and we're just going to spread it around the edges and the back. So when we put the actual box in, we leave it to dry, and then it will stick rock solid really. You don't normally have to worry too much about the fixings if you're using bonding. It's nice to do it, but no biggie. I'm just worried in case it goes through the end of the wall. So I think I'll be fine with this. The original one was like this as well. Like so, we'll put some at the top as well. And then for the back, we'll actually put it on the back of the case. I think we'll put a bit more as well. It'll be a bit of a squeeze getting it in, but it should be fine. And then we can just do the edges afterwards. So let me feed the cables in first, back into the box, like so. Make it face this way. Cover it like so. Okay, move it out a little bit just to prepare it. Make sure you cover the floor when you're doing this, obviously it will fall to a certain extent. Okay, you can see it being pushed through here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some wood now and then bang it in. You see it flying out. Okay, let me just get my spirit level, make sure it's not too much off. It is, okay, it's not too bad, literally there. Let me just push it in a bit more. I think that's fine. We managed to get it in. Just check it one more time. Yeah, it's not too bad. What we'll do now, we'll take little bits and we'll just fill up the gaps, like so. We won't fill it completely to the end, we'll just leave a little bit out. Instead of doing plaster or anything like that, we'll just do a bit of filler. And that will give it the nice sort of flush finish around the edges. So hence why we were quite careful. Obviously taking this out, we didn't want too much damage to repair. You've got to be really careful with these things because once you start doing this, you can literally break up the whole wall. I'll take some of this bonding from inside as well. Okay, we're nearly there. A little bit more, just using my finger for the last bits here. Then what we'll do, we'll just wire it back up again. But what I'll do, I'll strip back the wires a bit more. Okay, so next I'll just strip back the wires a little bit so there's a bit more space. So I'll probably take them back to about there, I think, and then I can chop some of the wires off and then I can start fitting this in place. So I'll show it once it's in place next. Okay, so we've rewired the switch on there and we've applied some filler with a spatula. So we've just gone for polyfiller on that one and obviously just use that to smooth off the edges like so. So what we'll do, we'll just let it dry off, but for the meantime I can refit the switch, that's the main thing. And then once it's dry, we can just give it maybe a light sand if it needs, and then we can just paint around it and we're done. Okay, just to show with the plate off, underneath there's a slight clip. So if you push in a flat screwdriver and twist, it will just pop off. And that's what you see underneath. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to push it back and just screw it on. Okay, so here we have the glass plate on there now. Finish is quite good. We can take this off just to show. Nice glass finish to that. I'm going to leave it on for now because I'm going to be painting it. So just to show, and it's I'm going to leave it for a week or so before I start painting it. But there you go, quite a nice fitting. So next thing I'll show, if I turn the lights off here, and if we just close that torch for a moment, just to show what it's like in the dark. So that means it's on. If you can see, there's a slight red glow to it. So really cool. So there you go. I hope it's helped anyone thinking of purchasing this. I have to say, it's pretty amazing and definitely worth the effort. Thanks for viewing, and don't forget to like and subscribe.